Okay, this is now the 5-minute tarot for the 13th of February 2018. And this is a little bit more about facts and opinions, because Meryl yesterday left a comment wondering how successful people are, or how you can read a card without introducing your opinion, because sometimes you need to. And I thought don't know about the easiest way, but one way of dealing with the question or the comment would be to give an example. So let me give an example using the King of Swords. So you've got the question, and let's say the questioner wants to know what's next, or what's going to be happening in my life next, soon, something like that. And I think it's important to remember it's always easier to read a card if you know what the question is. So if you've been picking cards and just trying to make sense of them, that's a dead end, seriously. So figure out a question. It doesn't matter how simple or general the question is, like what's going to happen next, or what do I need to know about next. You can do that. It doesn't have to be a specific question like, will I get the promotion? Okay, so if the question is, what's coming up next, and you turn a card, and we're doing one card. We're not doing yes, past, present, future. We're just picking a single card. Let's say the person wants to know what's going to happen next, or what do I need to know next, what's important coming up, and you get the King of Swords. So with any card, the card can represent the questioner and what they're meant to learn, or a situation involving the questioner, or it can involve other people. And maybe you point that out to the questioner near the beginning. So the King of Swords, so what you say is, for instance, you could say the King of Swords, if it represents somebody else, then I'll tell you about this other person. And so you're going to recognize that this King of Swords because it's probably somebody older. And here we look at the card and we describe what's going on with it, and we make some kind of sense of it to describe the type of person that the questioner is going to be, maybe going to become involved with. So we're going to talk about if the King of Swords represents somebody else, what's this other person like? If the King of Swords represents you, the questioner, then this is what's going on. So we're going to do it twice. We're going to look at the card once from the point of view of describing somebody else, and a second time from a point of view of describing the questioner, and lessons to be learned or experiences that are going to have to be gone through, whatever it happens to be. So we've got the King of Swords, and we say, okay, you're going to recognize this person. And here we're going to describe the card. Somebody older, somebody wielding a sword. So maybe they're precise, and they don't like ambiguity. They like to know exactly what's going on, or they like to be clear about things, and they don't like it when people are vague. And I was thinking of an example. There was once my son, I said to him, do you have any dirty dishes upstairs? And it was at night time and I was going to get the dishes together. So I said, do you have any dirty dishes upstairs? And he said, yes, I brought them down to the kitchen. And I said to him, you mean no? Because I said, do you have any dirty dishes upstairs? And the answer is no. So yes, I had some, but I brought them down to the kitchen. And it seems to me that kind of, do you have any dirty dishes upstairs? The answer is no, not yes, but. You know what I mean? So, and I think that's kind of like the behavior of the King of Swords, where you want a straight answer, you want a yes or a no, so that it made sense what my son said, but it wasn't that helpful. Well, it wasn't really that helpful, because I just wanted to know, are there any dirty dishes upstairs that need to be brought down? And so I wanted a no, but he gave me a yes. But so that's the kind of thing. If you've got an example like that, maybe you talk about, that's not really an opinion, that's you giving an example of the King of Swords or a particular card in action. And it can make make it easier for the questioner to recognize who this particular individual is, in this case, who the King of Swords would be. So we're talking about that. So you may meet the King of Swords, and this is how you're going to recognize him. So the questioner may then say, or the reader may think, okay, how do you handle the situation? So you're going to meet this king. If you may meet this King of Swords, how are you going to handle the situation? Or the questioner may say, okay, I don't like the sound of this person. What am I supposed to do about it? How am I meant to handle the situation? So you pick a card. You could try and do it from the King of Swords itself. Talk about the strengths and weaknesses of that individual. But maybe to keep it simple, you just pick a card for how should the questioner handle the King of Swords if the King of Swords is going to be met. And let's say you get the Three of Cups. So how do you handle the situation? Be friendly, be sociable. Because the Three of Swords, the Three of Cups shows these three women dancing, maybe what you do is you organize your schedule to fit in with the King of Swords. So you cooperate and you do what he wants or what she wants when they want it. Whereas if the King of Cups, if the Three of Swords had been the Three of Cups had been upside down, you would say, how do you handle the King of Swords? Don't be too friendly. Don't try and get close too soon, because it's not going to work. So just back off a bit and be, not standoffish, which can be rude, but more like recognize that maybe in the long run you're going to become friends with this individual, but you're not immediately friends in the beginning, the first time you meet them. So maybe be polite, be formal with the Three of Cups reversed. So that's one way of looking at the card, where we want it to describe somebody else and we're looking at the card and what it shows, and we're not really introducing our opinion. Then let's say, I was just thinking about, so the King of Swords then. So you say the King of Swords could represent you and what you're meant to learn. So maybe with the King of Swords coming up, it's time for you to dig in your heels and fight, and not be wishy-washy, but to be definite, to make choices, to make decisions, and be decisive. Like the King of Swords knows what he wants, and he knows what he has to cut out in order to remove obstacles, let's say. And that's going to be, so you'll find that your life revolves around lessons to do with that, about being decisive, and that's what's coming up for you. And again, you may think, why is this, why now? Or the questioner may say, okay, why is this, what am I supposed to get out of it? Why is it happening now? And maybe here you talk, and this is your opinion, where you talk generally about why things happen. Maybe you say, okay, if you've been a little bit wishy-washy or fearful about standing up for your own rights or standing up for yourself, now is the time to do it. So you can speak generally about why things happen or why things might happen. And that's your opinion. And you could give a story about a situation maybe you were involved in, or one that you know about, where the person dug in their heels and just stood up for themselves. But then let's say the question says, okay, well, why am I supposed to do this? Why now? And so you pick a card. And I was thinking about, let's say you pick the Wheel of Fortune upright. So the answer to the question is, why is it happening now? Because you're meant to do something bigger and better, and that is going to affect the world, because it's a Wheel of Fortune that comes up. And so let's say somebody's been writing poetry. So you dig in your heels and you publish, or you go for an agent, and what happens is, if you try to take your poetry to another level, let's say, or to take it to a bigger stage, this is why you need to dig in your heels, because if you make efforts to turn your poetry into something big and important, it's going to work. But if you don't dig in your heels, a good opportunity is going to pass you by. The Wheel of Fortune is going to move on, and then you're always going to be trying to catch up. So it's important that you take advantage of the time and what's going on and what's going on right now, and do something important and something big with it. Okay, so that's from the King of Swords is coming up. Why now? Because the Wheel of Fortune is providing good circumstances and conditions for growth and big change that you'll be happy about. Whereas if the person wants to know, okay, well, why is this King of Swords? Why now? Why am I supposed to dig in my heels now? And you turn a card and you get the Tower. Then the answer is so that you're not left with a mess. So if you dig in your heels, then you won't have to clear up a mess because of the nature of the Tower, which shows the man and woman falling or being knocked out of the Tower, and you're left with a disorganized situation. So if you dig in your heels now and stand up for what you believe in and what you know is right, then you won't have to, you won't be faced with major problems represented by the Tower. So we've got the question, what's coming up next? And you look at it from the point of view of situations and conditions involving other people, but also situations and conditions revolving around or involving the questioner and the questioner's behavior and the questioner's thinking and what they have to do and lessons they're meant to learn and that kind of thing. Because we ought to remember, or it's good to remember, that a card can describe other people, or it can describe you, the questioner, or it can describe both. A card, and if you think about your life, sometimes what's going on just involves you, sometimes it involves other people, but sometimes it involves both, you and other people. And the tarot, I think, will answer that kind of question, or will make us aware that it's not always just about us, or it's not always just about other people. It can be both. Okay, Meryl, I hope that helps. If not, let me know. And anybody else watching, what do you think of that? Because partly what I'm doing with these videos is I read stuff that people write, and I look at how people go about doing readings, and I identify what I see as weaknesses or difficulties or habits that are going to take you into a dead end. And I want to alert you to thinking and ideas that are going to be useful and helpful for you, so you can be comfortable reading cards and giving useful information to questioners who really want answers to their questions. Excuse me. That was it. So I'll see you quite soon, and maybe in a couple of days. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.